ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
Hi News Daily listeners, I'm Erin Park and I wanted to share with you my new podcast, Expanse, Nowhere Man. In 1999, a young American with everything to live for walked out alone into one of the deadliest deserts in Australia. Why did he do it, and why do some people have to lose themselves in the wilderness in order to feel found? Subscribe to Expanse, Nowhere Man on the ABC Listen app and all the usual places.
Donald Trump has long held aspirations to win a Nobel Peace Prize. And now he's collected several nominations for the prestigious award from global leaders, the latest from the Israeli Prime Minister. Today, Emma Shortis, Director of International and Security Affairs at the progressive think tank the Australia Institute, on the President's track record of peace and if he's in with a chance. I'm Sydney Peed. On Gadigal land in Sydney, this is ABC News Daily. Emma, last week, in a meeting at the White House, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu handed Donald Trump a letter nominating him for a Nobel Peace Prize. Just walk me through what happened at that meeting.
Benjamin Netanyahu visited the White House. He had dinner with President Trump and presented him with a letter.
I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved, and you should get it.
He did it in a very, I suppose, flattering way, talking about all the efforts Trump had made towards peace in Gaza, and Trump responded, as he does, to flattery.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming from you in particular, this is very meaningful. Thank you very much, baby.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Netanyahu did what he has been very good at doing in the past, in flattering Trump, I think it's not too far to say he manipulates him well. I think Netanyahu understands Trump perhaps better than many other world leaders and knew that Trump would love the fact that he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
But this actually isn't the first time Trump's been nominated for this prize. Both the head of Pakistan's army and the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo also recently submitted nominations too. So what's going on there?
That's right. Trump has been nominated a couple of times, as you said, by the Pakistani government in response to the Trump administration's role in that conflict between Pakistan and India a few months ago, though the Indian government contests the idea that Donald Trump played a role. And as you mentioned, the president of the Congo has also nominated Trump for a peace prize in his role in what they argue is resolving that conflict. So I think, broadly speaking, these are examples of other world leaders like Netanyahu attempting to flatter Donald Trump, to keep him on side when he is so volatile and liable to turn on allies, at any moment.
And we know that Trump has this obsession with receiving a Nobel Peace Prize, and he's had that for some time now, including back in his election campaign last October.
I'm just saying, if it was anybody else, liberal, Democrat, they would have had it before the damn thing was even signed, And I don't care, but I'm not looking for it. I'm not politicking for it. I'm just saying that there's a lot of unfairness in this world.
So when did this obsession really kick off? Because he sees himself as a peacemaker or a deal maker, doesn't he?
He does. He's certainly framed himself that way during the last election campaign in particular. He framed himself as the peacemaker and as the anti-war candidate.
I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent World War III. This will be obliteration, perhaps obliteration of the entire world. I will prevent it. Nobody else can say that.
But like many things, if not all things, that Trump becomes obsessed with politically and ideologically, his obsession with the Nobel Peace Prize is a direct response to it being awarded to President Barack Obama in 2009 during Barack Obama's first term.
If I were named Obama, I would have had the Nobel Prize given in 10 seconds. He got the Nobel Prize for doing nothing. For getting elected, but I got elected too.
So that's really, I think, where Trump's obsession started. You know, he came to office, or he built his political campaign on wanting to undo anything that Obama had done and to better anything that he had done.
Okay, before we get into how deserving Trump may or may not be, just remind me, what exactly is the process for winning a Nobel Peace Prize?
The Nobel Peace Prize is managed by the Norwegian government. It's existed since 1901 and it is awarded yearly to an individual or a group, and that the award is decided by a committee appointed by the Norwegian Parliament to a person or a group who has done the most or the best work for, as they describe it, fraternity between nations, for the abolition or reduction of standing armies, and for the holding and promotion of peace congresses. So it's a really important award. I think it has a huge influence on how people think about peace and security, and of course gets a lot of attention. You know, that's part of the reason, again, why Donald Trump is obsessed with it. It's quite a rigorous process. The committee is advised by experts and I think prides itself on awarding the prize based on evidence and based on genuine contributions to peace.
I want to turn now to the merits of Trump's nomination because Benjamin Netanyahu cites the Abraham Accords, which Trump helped broker in his first term. So just tell me about those accords and how important was that negotiation?
Sure. So those accords were widely regarded as very important, and what they did, or what they purported to do, was normalise relations between Israel and several Arab states, including the UAE, so the more moderate Arab states.
The Abraham Accords were very important, and you had really peace. You had the Arabs and the Jews getting along.
The problem, of course, with the Accords was that they sought to circumvent, or I suppose sidestep, the Israel-Palestine conflict. And it became very clear on October 7, during the Hamas attacks on Israel, that sidestepping that conflict was not possible, and normalising relations between Israel and the broader Middle East, while Israel was retaliating and occupying and attacking Gaza, would be nigh on impossible. So while the Abraham Accords, were regarded as important at the time, it has become clear that they were inadequate and didn't do the work of addressing that central question of the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Okay. And Trump is also seeking credit for ending the so-called 12-day war in Iran, as well as brokering a truce between India and Pakistan and Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. So is there a case to be made for him on those fronts?
I think on the merits, looking at those agreements, we can only conclude that they are temporary, or they were born out of situations that Trump himself created. So you mentioned Iran, for example, at the beginning. That conflict involved the United States unilaterally bombing Iran with no legitimate basis in international law. So not only did the Trump administration further undermine the institutions and the principles of international law, it's also taken a policy position that you can effectively bomb your way to peace. And I think many others would argue that that directly contradicts the spirit of the Nobel Peace Prize. I think when it comes to other conflicts like India and Pakistan, or the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, you could certainly argue that the Trump administration played a role in a temporary stay for those conflicts, but that lasting peace, enduring peace, is not guaranteed, and that the Trump administration is not willing to do the work to ensure lasting peace. In fact, it's undermining the institutions that contribute to that peace, including the United States diplomatic efforts and its provision of foreign aid, all of which creates further instability.
And of course, Trump has failed to bring about any ceasefire to the war in Ukraine, despite at one stage saying he could do it within 24 hours.
That war in one day, it'll take 24 hours. It would be easy. That deal would be easy. A lot of it has to do with the money. A lot of it has to do with the military, that we're giving. But I would get that deal done within 24 hours. That war has to
But it's proven to be much more difficult than he originally suspected, right?
Apparently so. We're almost, I think, 6 months now into the Trump administration, and there's no sign that that conflict is anywhere near resolution, despite, as you said, Trump's promise to end it on day one. What it has done is do things like unilaterally stop military support for Ukraine, which Trump appears to have been unaware of until after the defense secretary made that move.
It looks like the US President Donald Trump has reversed a unilateral decision by his Defence Secretary, Pete Hegseth, to halt a shipment of military aid to Ukraine.
We want to put defensive weapons because Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that.
So who ordered the pause last week?
I don't know. Why don't you tell me?
I think Trump has periodically paid attention to the conflict, but has not made the investment required in diplomacy, in the kind of diplomacy that might begin to resolve that conflict.
And we did see Trump recently swing back towards criticising President Vladimir Putin. Just last week, he blasted him for delaying moves towards a ceasefire, threatening more sanctions on Russia.
A lot of bull thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless. We're not happy with Putin. I'm not happy with Putin. I can tell you that much right now, because he's killing a lot of people.
And similarly, the war in Gaza has continued. A 2-month ceasefire started just after Trump was inaugurated earlier this year. And Trump claims a new ceasefire between Israel and Hamas could be close, but this comes after so much death and destruction. It doesn't seem like peace is really on the horizon.
Absolutely not. There is no peace in Gaza, and I think we can't emphasise that enough. The death and the destruction is almost incomprehensible, and Trump has shown no real interest, I think, in addressing that or in addressing the extraordinary overreach of the Israeli government. He's shown no interest in investigating accusations of war crimes in Gaza, for example. So, even if he did announce a ceasefire tomorrow, that ceasefire would not be interested in building genuine peace and security. When Trump is talking about policies of forced removal of Palestinians from Gaza, that, if nothing else, goes against, again, the spirit of the Nobel Peace Prize, which is focused on human security and genuine peace building.
Emma, Trump winning a Nobel Peace Prize, is it entirely out of the realm of possibility? Because the prize has been awarded to some fairly controversial figures in the past. Can you tell me about that?
It has. And we mentioned that the Peace Prize was awarded to President Obama, and that was controversial at the time because the Obama administration saw, during the continuation of the war on terror, for example, the targeting of people with drone strikes. The Obama administration oversaw the continued bombing campaigns in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Libya, in Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, and Syria. So the awarding of the Peace Prize to Obama is controversial, to say the least. And if we go back even further in history, US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger was awarded the Peace Prize in 1973 for his role in negotiating an end to the war in Vietnam, which of course was a war that the United States started, and in a war in which Henry Kissinger played a really important role in overseeing bombing campaigns, in overseeing horrifying death and destruction. So the joint awarding of the Nobel Peace Prize then to an American leader was also controversial.
Okay, so there is form for US presidents to win the prize for brokering ceasefires in foreign conflicts, even ending wars that they may have started. So if Trump was to negotiate a lasting ceasefire in Gaza or Ukraine, do you think he would be in with a chance?
I do think it's unlikely, and one of the reasons I think that is because the Nobel Peace Prize Instagram account actually put up a post explaining that nomination for the prize actually doesn't mean anything. Anyone can be nominated for the prize, and it doesn't actually mean that they are in with a chance. The Peace Prize Committee prides itself on the rigorous nature of that award and how the recipient is chosen, and I think would be very aware that, even if awarding the Peace Prize to Trump might appease him for a little while and encourage some of his better instincts in terms of peace building, it would also implicitly endorse, it would directly endorse really, what Trump is doing in catastrophically undermining the principles of international law and also domestic law at home. We have to remember that this is a president who has deployed the military against American citizens in California. This is a kind of president who's threatening allies, close allies like Canada, with annexation. So awarding him the Peace Prize would effectively render the Nobel Peace Prize meaningless.
Emma Shortis is the Director of International and Security Affairs at the progressive think tank, the Australia Institute. This episode was produced by Cara Jensen McKinnon and Cinnamon Nippard. Audio production by Sam Dunn. Our supervising producer is David Cody. I'm Sydney Peed. ABC News Daily will be back again tomorrow. Thanks for listening.